as the city's top prosecutor. Budin speaks to staffers after Tuesday's successful recall.
We have two systems of justice, right? We have one for the wealthy and the well-connected and a different one for everybody else.
Also in California, Democrat Representative Karen Bass and billionaire developer Rick Caruso are headed to a November runoff to become Los Angeles' next mayor. A former member of the Republican Party, Caruso changed his affiliation to the Democrat Party when he became a candidate in this election. USA Radio News.
Okay, we are running a car drive right now to help veterans all across America. So if you have an old car, truck, or van, even a motorcycle or an RV sitting around, you can right now give it away and help the vets. They really need your help. And your car will help support the vets and their families. And guess what? You even get a tax donation. Plus, we'll even come and pick up your car for free. And all you've got to do is pick up your phone right now and make a free call. Now is the perfect time to do something good for the vets. Give back to the vets right now for all they've done for this country. And your old car can really help them. So call the Veterans Car Donation Program right now for free pickup of your vehicle. Help the vets and help your taxes at the same time. Call right now.
800-883-3024. 800-883-3024. 800-883-3024. That's 800-883-3024.
QC Kinetics patient Robert Patterson, a veteran and business owner, struggled at work and in the gym with chronic agonizing shoulder pain.
Those injuries just continue to nag, and if you don't treat them, they just get worse. And I just kind of abused my body for a long time, and it finally had said enough is enough.
That's okay, because QC Kinetics tells your pain, hey, enough is enough. Their regenerative treatments bring you relief by helping restore and repair damaged tissue with no drugs, no downtime, and best of all, no surgery.
I was able to exceed the goals that I had previously attained in the gym. It was absolutely worth its weight in gold, so I could continue to live life without limitation.
Ready to get lasting relief from your joint pain? Call QC Kinetics to learn more about how natural biologic treatments can get you lasting results. Call now. It's a free consultation.
352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
Veterans Helping Veterans USA. Call 352-433-2320. We help veterans and their families with limited financial assistance, counseling, employment referrals, and a food and clothing bank. You can help in making a huge difference in the veterans' lives we serve by donating food, clothing, household items, or direct financial assistance. All donations are tax deductible. Veterans Helping Veterans USA. 352-433-2320. Thank you for your attention, and God bless America.
Attention passengers for Flight 1370. The plane has been delayed at its departure point and will be at least 2 hours late. We apologize for any inconvenience.
Are you serious? It took us over an hour to get here, 2 hours going through security and getting our tickets, and now we have to wait another 2 hours.
Yeah, it's beautiful here, but we're inside this overcrowded airport all day because the plane is stuck in bad weather.
This is the last time we ever do this. When we get back, we're going to Ocala Aviation and getting our pilot's license.
Yeah, we've been talking about that long enough. It's about time we did it. Then we could just fly ourselves and never have to deal with this mess again.
Right. No long lines, no full body groping security, no baggage checks.
Not to mention never losing your luggage. Remind me again why we haven't done that?
Well, we're idiots.
Oh, right.
Attention all passengers for Flight 1370. It looks like the plane is going to be delayed a little bit longer. The airline has lost the pilot's luggage. Isn't it time you got your pilot's license? Call Ocala Aviation today. 352-861-7484. That's 352-861-7484. Hey, you've earned it. Call today.
Hello, I'm Mark Sears with Regency Printing. With over 10 years in the printing business, I know you'll find Regency Printing the place for all your local printing needs. Plus, I have fax services, mailbox rentals, notary service, U.S. mail, pack and ship, all at one convenient location, 2375 Northeast 25th Avenue. Just look for the yellow signs. Regency Printing, 789-6683. That's 789-6683. Regency Printing.
Now you've done it. Have you lost your mind? He's back. And you're listening again. A legend in his own mind. Don't believe me? Just ask him. Here's Tom Schmitz live on WOCA. The Source.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks. On a Wednesday, I'm going to talk about something now that I usually steer clear of. Because, and I've said it numerous times on this show, I am against abortion. Me personally. But I don't carry a baby for 9 months. It's a woman's body that carries a baby for 9 months. So I stay out of the argument because I don't know enough about, what goes on in the woman's body for me to, as a man, make her tell her what that decision should be. I personally am against abortion. But I personally think it's none of my business, too. So with that being said, there looks like the Supreme Court within the next week or so is going to hand down a decision on some lawsuits about Roe versus Wade. And some people are saying that the Supreme Court, through this leaked document, we all know the story of the leaked document and everything, that they're going to overturn Roe versus Wade. And while I disagree with people saying they're going to overturn it, they're going to give it back to states to decide, in my opinion, how it's going to work. Is if the court does away with Roe versus Wade, they're going to say it's not a federal issue, it's a state-by-state issue. And you can have that argument whether states will do the right thing and whether it'll put us back in archaic times with women. I understand all those arguments. I remember growing up as a kid, the horror stories you heard before the middle 70s with backroom abortions and everything. I know the horror stories. But if you live in the state of Florida, it may not be doomsday for you abortion rights activists. Even though Governor DeSantis, even though the legislature did a 15-week abortion law and everything, even if the Supreme Court says it's up to the individual states to make a decision about abortion rights, a little-known situation in 1977 in Florida would make it almost impossible for Florida to outlaw abortion. And that's because of, let me make sure I get her name right. Put my glasses on so I can actually read. Where's the young lady? Patricia Dore, D-O-R-E. In 1977, in a meeting to consider potential changes to Florida's own charter, Dore told her colleagues that adding such a right would be like an insurance policy if the country free fell into what they remembered before Roe, when wealthy women turned to black markets of doctors and everyone else was left in the dangerous or no options. Florida would have a safety net, and that's the safety net is that in Florida, laws regulating pregnancy, termination run up against the constitutional amendment that Dore had passed. It provides that every person to be let alone and free from government intrusion into that person's privacy. So even though the government can make laws, they can't outlaw abortion because you're not allowed. There's a amendment to our Constitution that would have to be changed to a vote that says the government can't intrude on any personal decisions that are in a person's privacy. And the state of Florida has upheld that. The Supreme Court of the state of Florida has upheld that as being that the decision of abortion is a privacy issue. So there is right now there's a safety net in Florida, which, by the way, to abortion rights activists, there's a safety net in Florida that's not afforded in a lot of other states.
Right.
But so for all those freaking out that Roe versus Wade is going to be overturned, if you live in Florida, it's going to be a little harder for the legislature and the governor to do what you're so sure they're going to do.
Maybe, but like you said,
not maybe.
It just needs a vote. But all it needs is for there to be a vote to change.
But the vote has to be 70% to change a constitutional amendment. 70% of all Floridians have to vote yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
So it's not a. It's not
a 50% plus one. It's not a majority.
It's
no.
to the civilians, though. It's
it
not
is right. No, it is
not.
The policy. It had to change the Constitution. It has to be put to a vote of the public.
Gotcha.
and 70% of the public has to vote yay to change the Constitution.
Which is, I don't think that's going to.
So for all you that are freaking out, take a breath.
That's just in Florida, though.
It's just in Florida. But each individual state, I believe, no way, the founding forefathers strictly said in the Constitution, here's what the federal government does. Everything else is left to the states. Everything. It's not, that's not negotiable. That's how the Constitution was written. Here are the duties the federal government has to do. Everything else is state-by-state decision because we're not one unit. We're 50 individual states that create one unit.
Well, and here's the problem.
Just like, think about us. We're Europe, basically. The United States is Europe, but instead of it being countries, each state operates autonomously like its own country.
Right.
That's why it's the 50 United States. They unite into a common cause at the federal level. But they're individual. Each state has its own government. Each state has its own budget. Everything because it's set up that way in the Constitution.
Well, the problem is, though, that a lot
There is no problem. That's the Constitution.
Well, I understand, but a lot of states don't have that protection like Florida does. So it's
What
just
protection are we talking about?
Well, like you said, that 70% of civilians
Oh, yeah,
would
right.
have to.
But that's up to each individual state to decide whether they have that protection or not.
But is it left to the civilians in each state? Like, from what I understand, there's been laws
No,
that are
some
just
states,
waiting for
some states, the way their state constitution is written and everything, it's up to the politicians.
Right, and that's the problem.
Why? Do you know seriously?
Because a bunch of politicians shouldn't be able to tell women what to do with their body. That's the problem.
But we're not. Get away from that issue. Take that issue off the table. Don't see. You're looking at it. It's a one-issue thing. You can't look at government that way, because government has too many issues that closely resemble each other. That they have to do a broad spectrum look at. Here's my point. There are governments, there are state governments that we do, every state does just like the Constitution does. We elect people to represent us.
Sure.
Okay? So when they go to, do they always do that? No. I understand that. But we elect them to represent us because we're too big to do an actual democracy like they did in Athens, Greece, where they would all meet in the city square and they would sit there for 3 or 4 days till they hammered out the rules, and then they would go off. Then the next time they needed to bring some rules in, they'd come back in and argue for 3 or 4 days, every citizen of Athens.
Right.
Back then, Athens, it was the cultural phenomenon and everything. Athens had about 23,000 people. Imagine 380 million people trying to come together and all get a consensus.
It would be horrible.
You can't do it. So that's why we have a representative government. So each individual state, though, gets to make their rules on what their representative government is allowed to do and not allowed to do. So when people go, yeah, but that's the problem because these states won't protect women. That one issue, you can't say that that's a problem because of that one issue. Because there's many issues, and each state decides what's the best way for them to govern all the issues, not just one issue. And does that mean you agree with it? No. I think the way Nebraska does things, that they have a unicameral house, that there is no representatives and senators, and it's just one house, and how they have to. If you go read the charter and the Constitution of the state of Nebraska, it's a little whack job.
Well.
But I don't live in Nebraska.
Yeah.
So that's for the individuals in Nebraska to deal with. I can only deal with where I live. State of Georgia, I vehemently went about trying to help them change the state flag 30 years ago. Had to be done through the Constitution. 30 years ago, the state flag of Georgia was the Georgia seal in blue and then the stars and bars of the Northern Virginia Army, which everybody calls the rebel flag, but it's not. The Confederate flag was completely different, but that's neither here nor there. The flag that everybody thinks is the Confederate flag, the stars and bars, is what I'm referring to. Mm-hmm. That was the Georgia state flag. People wanted to change it. The NAACP different minority groups all wanted to change it. And they put out the flag they wanted to change it to. And I said, I'll help you 100% do that. Because I thought it was the funniest damn option that there could be. I did it purely from the humor value. Let's change the state flag. I lobbied on my on the college campuses I was at, talked to people I'd talked to in my restaurants. I lobbied to change the state flag of Georgia because it took a constitutional thing to do it. Now, the reason I did it was purely humorous because they went from the Georgia state seal in blue and the stars and bars to the actual last Confederate flag of the Confederate States of America with the Georgia seal in the middle, and the NAACP and everybody was perfectly fine with that because it wasn't the stars and bars, without realizing they went from one racist flag to another, and it was hilarious to me that all these smart people couldn't figure that out.
Right.
Okay? But that was how Georgia handled it. That was Georgia's job, to handle it how their citizens saw fit. They voted in a landslide to go from the stars and bars, which they say is a racist flag, to a flag that is the Confederate States of America flag with the Georgia emblem in the middle of it. That's not even, but that was that state's perfectly within their purview to do so. It's perfectly within the state of Florida's purview to make government laws and everything the way our elected officials choose to make them. And here's whether you agree with it or not, this state is a predominantly Republican state.
I have
so
no
whether
problem
whether you agree with the lawmakers or not, most of the legislation, if not all the legislation they pass, the majority of people are okay with it because the majority of people sent Republicans to the state house.
I have no problem with the fact that I think it's great that Florida would bring it to a vote, that the citizens would have to vote to do. I think that's fantastic. I think that's the way it should be done in every
And this
state,
lady had the forethought
because
to make sure in 1977 this got put in the Constitution, and it passed, by the way, in a landslide in Florida at the time. You know what Florida was at the time? A very liberal Democrat state.
Yeah. So I think, though, if you did that in every state and had the citizens decide that even though they put certain people, elected them to office in those states, and those are the people that are, I think you would find that most states would not be able to set
But here's what you're saying.
Anti-abortion
Here's what you're
laws.
saying. If you made every state do that.
If every state cared about what their citizens felt was the correct thing to do, if they really
But
were representing
remember, the constitutions were set up by the citizens of that state. All constitutions were created. All amendments are voted on by each state. When you go to each state, no state has a constitution that allows it to be changed with just a majority vote. Every state in the union has a 60% or higher threshold that must pass for the constitutions of each individual state to change.
Mm-hmm.
So each state has approved. Florida just happens to be 70%. But every state has 60% or higher.
For it to be changed in the Constitution.
Of their state.
Not to be made just a law. Like, I think some of them are, from my understanding anyway, some of them are just enacting laws, not changing the Constitution.
But those laws that are being enacted were passed by people that were duly elected to go do that job.
Yeah, but
so what you're saying then is if they go, what you're saying is in those states where they don't protect women through abortion rights, then those people, we should overturn those elections because those people didn't know what they were doing.
Okay, here's my point, is that
I just said your point. That's what I just said.
If you poll all Americans, let's say, you're going to find that the majority of Americans, and it's not like 52%, it's a large majority of Americans are against overturning Roe versus Wade. In any state, in the whole federal law,
Roe versus Wade can't be turned over. It can't be turned over in states. You do realize that, right?
Right, but I'm just saying, in general, they wouldn't want Roe versus Wade
turned
over by the Supreme Court.
So you would think a majority of Floridians don't want Roe versus Wade turned over?
Yes, I would say that's true.
You're entirely wrong because the poll's out there.
I think
the Pew poll. Go look up the Pew poll from 3 months ago when the first story broke about the Supreme Court. They did the Pew poll, did a Florida poll, and it came out that 57% of Floridians think that it's the job of the state of Florida.
I'd like to see the poll and how many people were polled, but I know that there's a poll. There are many polls that are for Americans, just in general, not by state, and that a high majority of Americans would not.
So now let me
want
ask you this:
the rules
how much
changed
faith
about
do you have in polls?
Well, it depends on the poll.
No.
Yes.
And here's
because I
why.
can answer this way.
Here's
because
why.
if you're only polling a very small
Okay.
amount of people, that's not a good poll.
No, I understand. I agree with that 100%. You say we took 200 average people across the country. That's terrible.
Yeah,
right.
that's awful.
But do you remember 2016?
I remember the year. Yes.
Do you remember? You remember how November 2016, how you thought the world had come to an end when you woke up that Wednesday morning and you heard that the reality TV guy with the comb over and the orange skin looked like he was definitely going to be president of the United States. You remember that day? Remember how
I
you
didn't
felt?
think the world was going to end because I would have voted for him in 2016.
But do you remember how a lot of liberals and all felt that day?
Sure, there were a lot of liberals, yes.
That felt terrible that day.
Mm-hmm.
The polls up until that very day had told him Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide. Every poll said Hillary Clinton was going to win in a landslide.
I don't think anybody thought that our country would actually elect this idiot.
But here's the thing. He won instead of her, and it wasn't close.
Sure, but he didn't win. He won the Electoral College.
Yeah, but
he didn't
but,
win.
So
that
brings me to the point. You know where he lost to her? He lost by 3 million votes in the popular vote. He lost New York by 1,200,000. He lost California by 1,800,000. Okay, add California and New York, 1,200,000, 1,800,000. What's that add up to?
Yeah.
And he lost by 3 million. So you're okay that we go with the popular vote, so New York and California can tell the rest of the country who we vote for, who we elect at the national elections? You're okay with that? 3 million votes that he lost by in the popular vote came from California and New York. You're okay with those two states can dictate to the other 48 states who our national politics are?
I think that
the
vote is supposed to be what the citizens of the United States
right, and
believe.
that's what, and they did. The citizens have constantly said the Electoral College gives people in Idaho the same respect for their vote that it gives the people in California. Because Idaho's a much smaller state. So if you went strictly by popular vote, it is obvious the two largest states population-wise would dictate the rest of the country. And it showed in that popular election. Hillary won by 3 million votes. Those 3 million votes were in New York and California.
Well, and I'm sure that Republicans would hate that and Democrats would love it. I mean, because New York and California are obviously Democratic.
100%.
And, so
That's my point.
Right.
Do you think that two states, through popular vote, should dictate what the other 48 states have to deal with?
Again, I think that it's supposed to.
No, answer that question. Yes or no? Do you think two states should dictate to the other 48 what should happen?
But I don't think that's the way it always works. It just happened to in that election. That happened to be the.
No, California. When you win a popular vote, Al Gore, Florida's where he lost. He crushed Bush. If it had been for California and New York, it wouldn't even been close. But he crushed Bush in those two states, and they're the two most populous states in the United States.
Well, I mean, I don't know. So you think that the Electoral College should stay around because you think it's fair?
I think the Electoral College makes votes in Idaho seem just as important as votes in California, votes in Florida, votes in Texas. I think votes in Alaska are just as important. And by the way, I'll give you a liberal state, Vermont. I think votes in Vermont should be just as important as votes in California and New York. Yes, at this time they agree with California and New York. But if they didn't, should Vermont be thought of any less than California and New York? But in a popular vote, they always will be because people don't live in Vermont like they do in New York and California.
So you said that, Democrats woke up the morning on 2016 and thought the world was going to end. But we didn't storm the Capitol.
No, you did not. I'll give you that.
So,
but Republicans didn't storm the Capitol the day after the election either.
Well, they stormed it later, but for the same reason, because they were upset that they lost the election.
By the way, you know what the Democrats did storm? Wall Street, because they blame Wall Street for electing this businessman reject, is what Democrats said. They blamed Wall Street. They blamed any kind of federal government agency. So they took over Portland. They took over Seattle. Oh, yeah. There was storming done. It just wasn't done at the U.S. Capitol.
Well.
There was storming done. Look, both sides. But look, and this is not something that's new to our history either. Everybody wants to act like this is a new phenomenon. Remember, Sumner caned a man and almost killed him on the House floor because he didn't agree politically with him. Okay, we've had that.
I think in every instance it's bad. It's
remember
bad reaction.
We had a vice president killed the Secretary of Treasury because they couldn't get along.
Yeah, right. It wasn't good then, and it's not good now.
And yet it's still the best system of anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And that's what people, when they start arguing and bickering and everything, and they have these, I hate this and I hate this government, I hate this. Still the best government in the world. It's still the best situation in the world. It's still the only place on the face of the earth where every 4 years the reason we have to be who we are is because we peacefully exchange power.
Well, we didn't.
By the way, when the Republicans sweep across into the House and Senate this November, which I think even Democrats think is an inevitable outcome right now, unless something changes drastically.
It's highly likely, yes, unfortunately.
You think there's not going to be any violent demonstrations by left-wing extremist groups?
I can't predict the future. Let's put it that way.
Okay. If they don't win in the landslide and the Democrats keep control of the government, think there'll be any violent extremist outburst?
Probably.
Hold on, I thought you couldn't predict the future.
Yeah, but
thought you couldn't predict the future
because of the state of what has been happening.
What do you mean?
Shows
you mean by Black Lives Matter and by
Black Lives Matter though wasn't in reaction to an election.
By the way, go to Black Lives Matter. Go to Black Lives Matter website and see where it takes you.
I've never been to it.
If you go to the Black Lives Matter website, it's just a landing page that immediately takes you to the Democratic National Committee.
Does it really?
Yes, it does.
I've never been on it. So
yes, it does. And you know, the other left-wing extremist group too. What's the name of it? Why can't I remember it now? With the skateboarders, we hit you with skateboards and everything. Yeah, they were part of the group that the kid in Wisconsin shot. Oh, I forget the name of the group. Anyway, I forget the name, but they're violent too. I forget the name. Why can't I remember the name of that group? Somebody text me the name of that group because I'm having a senior moment.
I'll say that not all the people that were protesting for
none of the protests that
for
end
the
with buildings
rights of black people, because it wasn't just Black Lives Matter people.
None of the people that protest and burn things down and destroy buildings and torch cars and tear neighborhoods up and destroy Walmarts and Targets and all. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. You're an idiot.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you're doing all that, yes. But I think there's still in each, and I'm sure that at January 6th there were some people way in the back that were not storming the actual Capitol building.
Well,
but
here's the thing. If Donald Trump had won, they would have stormed it. The other people would have stormed the Capitol building.
I don't think that.
I know you don't think that, but once again, that's why you're the intern and I'm the host
there would have
of the
been
show.
There would have been a different reaction by the police and everybody else.
Oh yeah, they just shot him and killed him like they should have.
Should they have done it to the people that stormed it?
No, those people were exercising their rights as citizens. We got to take a break. We'll be back after this timeout on WOCA 1370 AM 96.3 FM. You're listening to The Source.
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
Quote, there is no dispute that FBI agents in 2015 knew that Larry Nassar was accused of molesting gymnasts, but they failed to act, leaving him free to continue to target young women and girls for more than a year. It's time for the FBI to be held accountable. That quote from Maggie Nichols. Former Olympic gymnasts, including gold medalist Simone Biles, are among dozens of assault victims who are seeking more than $1 billion from the FBI for failing to stop sports doctor Larry Nassar when they had the chance. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen suggested the Biden administration is out of options to lower gas prices in America. While testifying before the Senate Finance Committee Tuesday, she continued to lay the blame on events outside of the United States.
Well, prices are very high, in part importantly because of Russia's war on Ukraine.
USA Radio News.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
That sinking feeling when your debit card fails.
Each morning we wake up
A 10-year milestone for a certain fruit. That's coming up on This Land of Ours.
Farmers, produce safety inspections are here. The Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and University of Florida are partnering to provide the produce safety trainings required for farms that grow, harvest, pack, or hold fresh fruits and vegetables. Seating is limited. Make sure you meet the requirements of the produce safety rule and sign up today. Our next training will be held remotely via Zoom June 21st through the 23rd. For more information, visit www.fdacs.gov/FSMA.